Being someone with a typical type A personality, it took me years to learn the value of doing things in moderation. I think especially when you're searching for an identity, it's just easier to be one thing or the other because the in-between is often a very confusing place to be in. For a very long time, I had a tendency of going all in with many things I committed myself to. I was that girl who would spend the entire day studying in the hope of getting a scholarship. As a teenager, I didn't entertain many social events. Most of the time, I was home doing revisions. The books I read were almost exclusively and entirely academic. I wouldn't allow myself to read any fiction or comics because I didn't think they were worth my time. I didn't enjoy any particular sports, but I would do them just to get a good-looking CV. I also didn't watch any TV for months on end. However, as soon as all the exams were done and dusted, I would then completely let myself go. Watching movie after movie, and I wouldn't touch any books, even just for entertainment purposes. Now, I'm not dismissing the value of self-discipline. There are times where we have to push ourselves and get ourselves out of our comfort zone. But that doesn't mean we should leave no room for self-care, leisure, and hobbies. In my professional day job, I went by the idea of going big or going home. I was constantly working myself to the ground, always trying to do more and more, and I was reluctant to take any time off. In a strange way, I almost got a sense of satisfaction from overworking. If I went home feeling really drained after a long day of work, I would pat myself on my back because it meant I had given everything I had. Similarly, if I hadn't depleted my energy or brain power, it felt like I hadn't done enough. Unsurprisingly, this eventually led to burnout. In my 20s, my job was a huge part of my life, and I was hyper-focused on it. To everyone looking from the outside, I might seem organized and focused, but I was actually quite directionless in life. And I think that's why I threw myself into my job, because overworking helped to numb that feeling of emptiness. What was I supposed to do with myself otherwise? So I thought I might as well capitalize on my time and my skills. I remember feeling so lost. My husband suggested for me to slow down, take up a hobby, and maybe start drawing again. But I quickly dismissed the idea because how would those things help with my career? And why would I waste my time on those things? If anything, I should work harder. At one point, I was working 6 days a week for one entire year without any time off. I remember coming home one day and completely breaking down in tears. I couldn't process my feeling and my emotions at that point, but I now know I was absolutely exhausted, both physically and mentally. But somehow I decided I should keep going, even though my husband was constantly asking me to take a break. To compensate for the exhaustion I put myself through, I would buy myself some nice expensive things on my few days off. It was my way to keep my sanity. At first, I thought there was nothing wrong treating myself to something nice once in a while. But soon, I was constantly buying more and more, and I was so easily triggered. For example, I would buy a Chanel handbag that cost thousands of pounds just because the sales associate said it was the last one in the country, even though I knew it was the wrong color for me. Before I knew it, I kept buying more and more designer handbags, even though I already had more than I could practically use in my daily life. After all, most of the time I was in my surgery, wearing my surgical scrubs, so I only needed that many handbags. After learning about the idea of intentional living, I slowly got my life back together. It gave me a sense of purpose and a clarity of what I value in life. Cutting down on my spending was both refreshing and life-changing. In a way, it also expedited the journey to achieve our financial goals. But I did go through a period where I stopped buying a lot of things just for the sake of it, and maybe to prove myself something. It was only in the last year or so that I decided moderation is not a weakness. If anything, it's the key to make anything we want to do sustainable in the long run. With minimalism, things can go two ways if we take things too far. The first one is denying yourself the things you enjoy and value. And the second one is consuming unnecessarily in the name of minimalism. Personally, I have been at both ends of the spectrum. There was a time where I felt like I had to replace everything in my house for a more minimalistic aesthetic. I thought about buying a new sofa for my living room. I considered completely revamping my wardrobe and building a capsule closet with brand new but minimalistic pieces. I also wished all my kitchen utensils were white and uniform. Looking back, it was quite ironic how I thought I couldn't make use of the things I already had because of minimalism. And let's talk about the other extreme end of minimalism. There are many things I've stopped buying when I decided to become more intentional. And to be honest, I still don't miss many of those things. One example is high heels, and the second one is nail polish, and then we have designer body lotion and so on. Having said that, there are certain things I cut out just because. And once something was removed from my life, I felt like it wasn't an option to reverse my decision. For example, I started coloring my hair in 2020 and I continued doing that for a while, even though I don't actually enjoy the process because it's always really messy and chaotic. But anyway, I kept going for a while because I wasn't going to bring back what I decluttered. Well, this year I decided it's time to go back to my hairdresser because some services are simply worth paying for. Then we have physical books. When I first learned about minimalism, I was eager to minimize everything in my life. In terms of books, I tried to digitalize as much as I could, but I soon realized I still really love books. I enjoy going to the library. I find the smell of books really intoxicating, and there's something really charming about the touch of paper pages. I love my Kindle because it's so small and travel-friendly, but certain books are simply not meant to be enjoyed in the form of ebooks or audiobooks. One example are books about art and drawing, where you really have to see the colors and the contrast to fully appreciate the work and the message. I always try to check in my local library first when I need some resources, but I have started buying books again. I'm also seriously considering about building a collection of books and maybe adding a bookshelf to my space. For a while, I wanted my workspace to be very bare and minimal, like what I saw on Instagram. But now I've decided books that I enjoy are absolutely not clutter. So I feel like if you are at a point in your life where you feel overwhelmed with your spending or your possessions, then it is worthwhile to cut everything out for a while and take a break from everything. When you allow yourself to slow down, you're giving yourself an opportunity to observe what you miss having in your life. For me, doing that helped to differentiate the important things from the noise. Once you have some clarity, however, know that you can still welcome some flexibility. Figuring out your priorities is invaluable, but it is essentially just a framework to guide your spending, not a reason to deprive yourself. There are some really useful minimalist tips out there to keep our lives curated. Some of the very popular ones include one in, one out, never adding another hanger to your closet, doing a low-buy year, and so on. Personally, I've tried them all, and they've all helped me in one way or another. But I've come to realize that life is not constant, and so I should allow my life and my possessions to expand in a healthy way. So now I don't subject myself to a complex cycle of overthinking. I usually just ask myself very simple questions like, do I have space for this item? Will I use it? Will I enjoy it? Am I being responsible? And is it worth the money? I'm still not perfect, But now I do always remind myself to embrace moderation. I still very much have the tendency to keep going whenever I'm working on something, but I'm nowhere as extreme as I used to be. Even though I now spend more time at home, I still only post one video a week. I also really enjoy doing digital illustrations, but I know if I push myself too much, I might end up resenting it. There was a time where I promised myself to post 5 illustrations a week, but I soon realized if I start putting unnecessary pressure on myself, it would just take all the joy away from something that's so special to me. So now I'm simply enjoying the journey, drawing what I feel like, and just letting my art develop in a healthy and nourishing way. I hope you enjoyed this video. I've been doing quite a lot of self-reflections lately, and I thought I should share them with you guys because I think moderation is much needed in today's world where we might often feel like we can only be one thing or the other and that there's no room in between. Thank you for being here. Take care, and I will see you soon.